Wine is a living product which naturally matures over time. Maturity will change a wine significantly, developing different characteristics, aromas and flavours. Not all wine matures equally though, and how a wine develops will depend largely on its quality, with superior wines generally maturing over a longer period. As they age, wines will follow a maturity curve, starting with their primary characteristics in youth and developing secondary and even tertiary characteristics as they age. This maturity curve varies for all wines, with the growing conditions, quality of the grapes, winemaking practices, and wine storage conditions all influencing the process.
So what are the maturity curves of Burgundy wines?
Well, probably, I think that's going to depend on the level, the quality level. You know, if you're going for your straight Bourgogne Rouge, Bourgogne Blanc, I think you can drink those fairly early. You know, you don't really need to cellar them very much. You know, you can drink them, 1 or 2 years after the vintage. And then moving up to Village, and then Premier Cru, and then Grand Cru, that kind of is an indication of when you would want to drink them. You know, a Grand Cru, you probably wouldn't want to drink it at least less than sort of 5-6 years old. Ideally, maybe about 10 years old. But then, those Grand Cru wines with the power and the oak and the concentration, they can last for a long, long time. If they're cellared well, if they're in a cellar which is kind of damp, it's cold, there's no light in there, there's no vibration, those wines will last easily for a half a century or even a century. So Grand Cru wines that last for the longest. Bourgognes, drink them fairly young, they're the more simple wines anyway. Village and Premier Crus, you want to be drinking those within sort of 10, 15 years, something like that. So as you get those wines when they're quite young, with Chardonnay, it's really all going to be about sort of primary fruit. So your primary fruit characteristics are going to be things like orchard fruit, so things like apple, yellow apple, green apple characteristics to it. Citrus fruit, so things like lemon, you're going to get to it. Some tropical fruit, so probably on the slightly underripe side, so things like pineapple, things like mango, but on the underripe side. Fresh, crisp, high acidic, that's what it's going to taste like when it's young. As white Burgundy starts to get older, this is a good example. This is a 2011 Chassagne Montrachet, so you can see that's really developed like quite a golden, quite a straw colour. And wine as it gets older, it gently oxidizes, so it's kind of like it's almost rusting. That sort of depth of colour bring with it more characteristics, probably a bit more like, definitely moving away from green apple, moving into more that yellow apple, yellow plum. Floral characters, a bit like acacia, chamomile, honeysuckle, and definitely quite a nutty character, so kind of like a toasted hazelnut kind of characteristic to the whites. Red wine kind of goes the other way with colour. Red wine starts off quite dark, and then it starts to get lighter in colour as it gets older. Young Pinot Noir would be kind of quite vibrant, lots of red fruit, lots of cherry, lots of raspberry, lots of pomegranate, lots of cranberry, those sort of characteristics to it. And red Pinot Noir, as it starts to get older, it will start to get more tertiary. Those bright red fruit characteristics, that cherry, strawberry, starts to fade away, and it really starts to move into the more kind of leather, smoked meat, bacony sort of characteristics to it, almost like sort of truffle. If you come in France, they use a term called sous bois, which means under the wood. So if you ever go into the wood after it's been raining and you get that smell of sort of damp vegetation, that's kind of what you're getting in mature, older Pinot Noir.
Do the weather conditions on a vintage make much difference?
Yeah, they can do. Obviously, if you get a nice, hot, sunny vintage, a good vintage, you're going to get big yields, you're going to get really fruity wines, you're going to get very concentrated wines. It's going to be a successful vintage. They're probably the wines that are going to last for longer. You may get vintages which are the weather's not so good, maybe a bit of that spring frost, maybe slightly cool during the rest of the year, less maturation, less ripeness, and those probably aren't the wines for keeping for a long, long time. So they're probably wines that want to be drunk fairly sort of soon.
So what have been the best vintages in Burgundy?
Best vintages of late, probably 2015 was very good for red and whites, 2016 was very good for red and whites, 2014 was not good. 14 had a lot of hail. It hailed a lot in places like Meursault and Pommard, and if you imagine 5 minutes of hail in a vineyard, basically the hail comes down, splits all your grapes, punches holes in your leaves. So 5 minutes of hail can absolutely devastate a vineyard. Bordeaux, Burgundy and Champagne have always had hail the last few years. Maybe it's an indication of global warming or something like that. But after that, 9 and 10 were a good pair together. 2005, great vintage. And then as you start to go back, historically 1990, 1989 were good, 85 was good. And then going back even more, 78 was great. And then if you want to be really flash, things like 59, 47, and then probably the ultimate vintage was 29. So it's really only going to be the top Grand Crus from the top producers that last for that long. But if you ever get to try something like that, I mean, that's an incredible treat.
Wines can mature and develop significantly over time, and a wine might taste completely different from one year to the next. If your wines are cellared properly, it's possible to get an understanding of how a wine matures by opening a bottle of the same wine each year.